tired, or you drank coffee, or maybe worried?
Mm, Probably, yeah, a little bit worried, but more than that, I would say that was the mosquitoes. There were a lot of mosquitoes, and you know that they are so annoying. So yeah, probably was that.
Yeah, very annoying. I hate mosquitoes. And they interrupt your dream, your sleep time, then you cannot sleep very well.
Hmm.
Well, hello, Mickey.
Hi, teacher.
I'm back.
Perfect.
All we needed now, right, is to have a problems with the connection.
Don't worry, teacher. Don't worry.
But well, so you were saying that you had problems to sleep, but maybe a nap, Mickey. You don't like taking naps, so occasionally you can take a nap.
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, I didn't like to take naps, but now I will say that are necessary. Normally, after I eat something, like between 3:30 to I don't sleep more than 25 minutes when it's a nap, but with 15 or 20 or 25 minutes, you feel recover. You feel great. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably in the afternoon I'm gonna take a nap.
Right. They say that naps help you quite dramatically to recover some of the energy of the day. Yeah. If you didn't
Yeah.
sleep very well, those are great. Okay, Mickey. Well, let's see. How's the world on tariffs today, these days? What have you seen? What have you noticed? Do you advocate for tariffs or not necessarily?
Yeah, well, the world the last weeks have been crazy. Yeah, well, I think that Donald Trump paused the tariffs. I think that during 90 days, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's something, uh, well, that at least I don't agree, and I mind that mostly all Americans don't agree either, because obviously at the end the affected are them. For example, in my case, when I purchase something from European countries like Italy, England, because normally those like the luxury sneakers are from those countries. The prices has increased in the last month for the same reason, for the tariffs. So imagine I'm just a seller here in Mexico that purchase something to Europe, well, from Europe to United States. But imagine how many people do the same in United States. So, so yeah, I think that it affects. I think that it's gonna affect too in the increasing prices of mostly so many things. For example, the iPhone. I think that they're saying that probably the price is gonna increase because everything is almost everything is manufactured in China. So it's a complex topic.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. And then apparently there are many risks when there are tariffs imposed on certain countries, not only from the political standpoint, but also from the commercial standpoints. Don't you think, Mickey, about the
Yeah.
risks?
Hmm.
What do you think? What do you foresee that can happen? For example, if, as you just mentioned, high consumer prices, which is a problem, right? What
Hmm.
is one of the risks that can take place in the countries if they continue increasing in consumer prices?
Mm, well, it's gonna affect different areas. Um, for example, I think that not all people can uh, probably uh, can continue purchasing in the way that they are purchasing because the increasing of prices are dramatical. Above that, um, well, I think that it's a problem because they can have like problems with other countries. Like, okay, you impose tariffs, I'm gonna impose tariffs to the products that you export to my country or to, I don't know, for example, the European Union or whatever. So, so yeah, in a way, he's creating. Donald Trump is creating enemies in a place that that aren't necessary. But but yeah,
Yeah,
it's.
that's true. I'm sorry to interrupt. They say, Mickey, that there is a fear that countries can retaliate. And also, I just read something that Mexico doesn't have the power to retaliate, to like avenge or take revenge on the decision imposed on tariffs on us. But isn't that so? Is it true that we don't have the power to retaliate? We have many agricultural products that we sell to the US, which are the first need, like agricultural products, some engines, some machinery. So, what do you think about this power of retaliation? Do we or do we don't have it?
Yeah, I think that we have this power of retaliation too. Uh, but it's a reality that we are so dependent of United States. So I would say that all the growers will be affected if we try to be like, uh, how you say, like retaliate with them.
Retaliate,
Yeah,
yes, retaliate.
retaliate with them. Yeah, it is. It is difficult. For example, I was reading about like the main incomes of Mexico nowadays, and something that surprised me. I thought that the first place would be uh, like agriculture and all stuff, but the first main like source of money that goes into Mexico are from, I don't know how to say it in English, but remesas. So in a way, it's for I think that it's very sad, right? That the main source of money that comes to our country is for the people who's working in the United States. So yeah, I think that in a way we are so dependent to this country, and it is an issue because since a long time ago we have been like so dependent to United States that we haven't seen um, like other opportunities in with other countries for the same reason.
Yeah, remittances, remittances.
Remittances, remittances.
Yeah,
Thank you.
remittances. You remit, you submit, you send money, but in this case, they refer specifically to the money that comes from the US,
Mhm.
source of income, remittances. And that is true. That is true. It's amazing. But the first source of income in Mexico, the first or two, it varies depending on the year or the season,
Mhm.
uh, is the money that they send to Mexico. So we basically, well, we as a source of income, we are very dependent on the people that couldn't make it in Mexico. That's why when they treat him bad, it makes me so angry about this, Mickey. But for example, we were not able as a government, as a society, to give them a good life. I mean, we couldn't simply, right?
Hmm.
Because there were no jobs, they were badly paid,
Hmm.
they expelled them for any reason, right?
Yeah.
And after that, they send money. They go out of Mexico. They go to the U.S. because we couldn't give them the means to have a good life in Mexico. So they emigrated. They left their families. Then they send us money, and then we treat them bad. So I say that's not fair,
Yes,
really.
it's true. It's true. Yeah, it is a mess, but yeah, it's a reality that happens here in Mexico.
Yeah. Well, another issue that people dispute, not dispute, uh, is that Mexico has, there are organizations like the World Trade Organization, Yeah, I'm back finally. Well, I don't know this.
Yes, sure, don't worry.
It's been failing for some reason. Also, I was in class yesterday with a chess guy, and he had some. We were having some trouble, and it's supposed to be a good connection, total play. Have you worked with it, or what provider do you have, Mickey? What internet?
Yeah, no, I have easy, but
Easy,
yeah,
that's
I
the one.
think it is good, but in occasions it is failing. So I think that depends too of where we are located, because I think that in certain zones the signal is not the same. But well, don't
Yeah,
worry.
maybe that's my case. He's because my brother has total play, and he's always been very happy with it. He's never had serious issues. Yeah, occasionally you can have an issue, but not very often. This one's been failing for the last weeks, and I don't know why. I had my thesis presentation, and man, I was so worried that it would fail. It didn't, but I was worried.
Yeah, of course.
But well, let's see. What do you think about the WTO, the World Trade Organization? What's your thoughts about that entity?
World Trade Organization. Um,
Yeah, I
Yeah, well, I think that this organization is like the only one organization that more or less established like the different norms about the international trade. That is correct.
Yeah, yeah. Remember the famous GATT, General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is the precursor.
Mm,
Actually, not the precursor. Is the result, the outcome of the GATT is, which is the General Agreement on Tariffs, and this was born on 1995, the World Trade Organization,
mm,
and it absorbed GATT, right? And it imposed, it regulated the tariffs for goods, services, intellectual property, I suppose. And when there were disputes, they would settle the disputes. So, in other words, one of the mandates of this organization is to settle disputes. But it's not that I don't respect these organizations. We are supposed to respect them if it's an agreement. But then, for example, some organizations like NATO, the United Nations Organization, GATT, UNESCO, which is part of the United Nations Organization, this World Trade Organization, etc. At one point in time, they seem to follow the rules, but when there is a moment of truth, as they say, like when the US invaded Iraq, they simply disobeyed. And there is, for example, in the case of the United Nations Organization, there is a permanent council that decides on a majority, right? Majority base. You know who are the permanent members of the Permanent Council of the United Nations?
no, I don't know.
I believe they are the strongest countries. You know who they are? The US,
Mhm.
the UK, China, France, and Russia.
Russia.
These are the five permanent countries of the United Nations. They are supposed to decide on major issues. But I think in 2002, when the US invaded Iraq, the majority said US and UK said yes, said yes to the invasion. France, China, and Russia said no. And the invasion took place anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So, at least for me, right? I don't know the rest of the people, but for me, that loses face on some organizations. I don't know if there is a point in which people, or not people, countries would say, well, this is it. I no longer follow the regulations. What do you think of that, Mickey? That in some cases, countries obey the decisions of organizations, but when there is a point of no convenience, then they say, no, I better don't follow, and I go my own way. Have you seen that in some countries behaving like that?
Yeah, of course. It is so sad because, well, it's supposed that these organizations um, establish a balance, right? They like establish a democracy, and we know that so many occasions, um, it seems that those organizations are influenced by other aspects. Um, for example, the case that you mentioned here, it seems that three countries said no and two said yes, and the United States didn't care, and they invited um, was Iraq.
Iraq, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, it is so sad because it's supposed that are created for a purpose, but in occasions the purpose is not too clear.
Yeah. Most of the times, and I agree too, that the purpose of these nations has served the world really well. Probably
Hmm.
that offsets the downfalls of certain decisions during specific times, right? It's not that they always decide incorrectly. On the contrary, most of the time most of the times they provide welfare to countries who are in problems. They organize sponsorships, support, right? For example, maybe let's see if you can Google a brief history of the United Nations, which is an organization that's been very influential in the Western world and has also tried to encompass countries from other continents like Europe, Asia. I don't know if Africa too, but I think they include countries from Africa as well. Let's see if we can find a little bit of the history of the United Nations, Mickey,
Yeah.
and how they are performing currently, please.
Well, here's a summary.
Ah, yes. Do you want to share it or do you want to read it? Or
Ah,
both?
if you
Or if you
want.
want to read it simply as you wish.
Okay. After the devastation of World War II, world leaders wanted to prevent another global conflict. So in 1945, 51 countries came together in San Francisco and signed the United Nations Charter. This marked the birth of the UNO, on October 24th in 1945. Its main goals were, and still are, to maintain peace and security, to promote human rights, to foster social and economic development, and to provide humanitarian aid.
That's really
The
nice. Yes. Yes, Mickey. Yeah, yeah. Continue, please.
Okay. The United Nations organization replaced the League of Nations, which had failed to stop World War II. Today, the UN has 193 member states and operates through key bodies like the General Assembly, where all members discuss global issues, the Security Council handles peace and security, the International Court of Justice resolves disputes between nations, the UNICEF, WHO, UNESCO, and many more specialized agencies. Despite some criticism about its effectiveness, the United Nations organization has played a crucial role in reducing conflicts, fighting poverty, and promoting cooperation among countries.
Right. Well, yeah, it's done lots of positive things. What's your personal opinion about the United Nations successful events and occasional failures? Maybe we can develop a small table that shows successes and failures because there have been failures also.
Mhm. Okay, if you want, I can share the table.
Oh, thank you, Mickey. Let's see. All right. Let's take a look at it, please.
Can you see it?
Yeah, it is visible now. Perfect. Peacekeeping missions and failures. The Rwanda genocide. Well, I don't know about that.
No, me neither.
800,000 people were killed. Syrian civil war, Srebrenica massacre. Wow, that's horrible. Bosnian civilians. Yeah, that's the Srebrenica massacre. Bosnian civilians. They are the attack on Kosovo. It does not include it.
The
I
attack of
don't.
Kosovo?
Yeah, let's see if he can include. Let's ask him if he can include the Kosovo invasion. Yeah, I think. Let's see about the Kosovo invasion. That was horrible. My sister-in-law, my brother's wife,
Mm-hmm.
was there, and her father was part of the war,
Wow.
uh,
On
and
Kosovo?
in Kosovo, yeah, they destroyed bridges. They were led by NATO, of course, and the U.S., who helped dismantle Yugoslavia and become several regions, independent regions,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a horrible war. Uh, so NATO intervened without the council approval. That's what I was referring to. They decide on their own without the permit of the United Nations. Right? So NATO intervened without the UN Security Council approval.
Sure.
So that was a very, very horrible attack. And well, Israel Palestine conflict. So, well, it's a good number of problems that have not been resolved. What do you think about this, Mickey?
Yeah, it is so sad because it seems that there are more failures than successes. And for example, here in the first part says peacekeeping missions in countries like Namibia, Cambodia, and Mozambique help restore peace after conflicts. But those are like small countries, I think. And in comparison with those, uh, it seems that probably is not like very effective, and it can seems too that in occasions when there are like other influences, it seems that you know doesn't works very well for the because something probably bigger are behind that. For example, the case that you mentioned of the Kosovo conflict, where NATO intervened without the UN security approval. So, well,
Yeah. To be fair, this action of eradication of diseases has been a big success in the World Health Organization, it says, and also the promotion of some practices like the universal vaccination for children, um, provision of vaccines during the COVID. There's been also positive efforts. I mean, to admit, they've also been very positive in many ways. So, but unfortunately, it's not always black and white, right? There are grades of
Grace. Hmm.
shades of gray, right? As the movie, no?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, or if you were to qualify the behavior of the United Nations, let me share with you this now, Mickey, please. Let me share some of the objectives of the UN. How would you rate them in terms of performance? They say that they are to maintain international peace and security, promote human rights, foster social and economic development, and encourage cooperation in solving global problems. There's even the agenda. If you go to the governments and you talk to them, they all tell you, oh, yeah, the Agenda 2030, right?
30. Yeah.
Is like a big time part of the jargon. And the municipalities have to follow this because it's the agenda of the United Nations, right? It's like the world regulator now, in a
Hmm.
way, right? Because it
Hmm.
regulates the more or less regulates the development of the policies of the government, which can be good, but also it shows a chain of command. But if you were to judge these four objectives of the United Nations, how would you do it? What's your comment about these ones, please?
Maintain international peace and security. Uh, I need to give mm, like a qualification or
Yeah, yeah. Let's give him a grade.
a grade? Yeah. Maintain international peace and security. I would say a 6.
A six.
Yeah.
A six or 6 out of 10. That's 60%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Maybe me too. I would be in the same.
Promote human rights and fundamental freedoms. 70%.
70. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Foster social and economic development.
I'm not pretty sure in this one, to be honest. Um, I haven't seen like cases where um, they are like foster social and economic development. I imagine that they does, but to be honest, I'm not pretty informed about it. So probably for that, I'm gonna keep 70% too.
70. All right. Okay. And then what about encourage cooperation?
Solving global problems. 60.
60.
Mm-hmm.
So, in general, if people were to ask, to make a survey about the general perception of the United Nations, what would you say? What would you be? What would your comment be, Mickey? Would you say that the United Nations has succeeded, more or less succeeded, has been average, has challenges, or has lots of challenges? If we were to use survey with 5 elements, right? Say one, very poor. Two, challenges, lots of some challenges, some challenges. Three, fair. Four, good. And five, extremely good. How would you rate them in general and why? How would you explain it?
Well, I would say some challenges.
Some challenges. Well, okay. It has some challenges. Why? Why would you give them this grade?
Why? Because we have seen cases where yeah, uh, United Nations organization does his work, as we saw in the chapter before.
Yes.
So yeah, I would say that of course it can improve in many areas, like um, mostly focus on security. I think so because we have seen cases where like United Nations organization didn't impose the power that it's supposed that they have. So that's why I say that it has some challenges because yeah, they have done something, but they can do many other things. I think so.
Do you think, thank you, Mickey, that's a very interesting comment. Do you believe that the decisions, like in a rich school, right? Let's think of Tec de Monterrey or Ibero or Niva or the Nahuac, etc. Sometimes their kids are good students, and there are plenty of great students, and they get good grades, right? But some other
Mhm.
times the kids are not very good students. However, they come from wealthy families, and
Mhm.
the teachers tell you or the directors tell you, well, you gave Panchito a 6 or a 7, but his dad is contributing, is part of the board of directors. His dad or his uncle or his grandpa is this and this. Can you give him an extra activity and give him an 8 or a 9? I'm just revealing some of the things that happen as a teacher, right? The
Yeah,
director comes and tells you, hey, this young kid, he's this and that, right? And then you are a teacher, right? You need a job, and it doesn't cost you anything to give him an extra point. You know internally that at the end, life will be the real test, right? When he shows life. So you say, well, 1 point, extra point, 2 extra points, and I don't risk losing my job, and I have 6 children to feed and pay their tuition
Mhm.
and the food and this. So I'm not gonna be stingy with 1 or 2 points, right, to this kid whose dad is Mr. Whatever in this tech de Monterrey or something, right?
Yeah.
So you give them the 2 points. Do
Mhm.
you think organizations like the United Nations or other members work more or less the same? What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. Now that you mentioned this this example, I imagine, for example, with the case of the United States, I think that it's similar or it's the same. That is like, okay, but he supports with this millions and billions of dollars to the organization. So probably we can do an exception here, but yeah, at the end, each country is independent, and I think that that's why they do what they want to do. But well, the purpose of those organizations is to establish boundaries and establish a balance. So I hope that this can improve. I Now that you mentioned a little bit ago about the Agenda 2030, I have read about it, and to be honest, at least here in Mexico, I think that we are so far away of, of the final purpose. But well, let's see. We still have uh, 5 years ahead, so I don't know. Things can change, and I hope so.
Right. What comes to your mind in terms of this Agenda 2030?
Well, it talks about security. I remember that I saw it in the masters. To be honest, I need to remember a little bit um, the different points that the agenda has. Let me search it a little bit, and then I can.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see what it says.
Well, the agenda is divided in four parts. The first one is people. Second one, planet. Third one, prosperity, and the fourth one, peace and partnership. Starting from people, the first part is no poverty. So if we see that there are 5 years of difference between 2025 to 2030, I think that this one is not gonna be possible. The second
Right.
one is zero hunger, the same.
Yes.
Good health and well-being. Mm, I'm aware that there are countries that, oh well, here in Mexico too, I know that there are places where they don't have the basics in health services, and I know that in some other countries are worse, much worse than here. So I don't think that this one is gonna be possible either. And I don't want to sound like so pessimist, but I'm doing like a real comparison, and at least in my opinion, I think that it's gonna be possible in 5 years. The fourth one, quality education. Mm, I don't think so. And gender equality, probably I would say that of the five parts of this chapter, probably that will be like the most possible that will happen.
Okay. Very
And I know that
interesting.
in some countries are so extremist and conservative in this case. So I don't know, but probably of the five, I would say that the fifth one will be like the more, the more possible. But I'm not 100% sure either.
Okay. How
If
about
you
the other
want,
ones? Do you think?
yeah, if you want, let me share you the table too.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Vicky. Thanks.
Can you see it?
Yeah, here it is. All right. So that's number five. And then there is number six, which is
Clean water and
Clean water
sanitation.
sanitation. What do you think about clean water? Are we getting there little by little, or what are the challenges? What have you seen?
Uh, I don't know. This one is it is very interesting too. I know that in some countries they have like different procedures to clean water, but I don't know. It's gonna be possible that all the countries have like the technology and development to have these procedures. But I think that yeah, as I mentioned, in some countries they have improved in this part. In other ones, I think that they have um, they still having like different issues with it. I don't think so that it's gonna be fulfilled in 5 years, but I hope that in the future, not too late, it's gonna be something possible.
Right. Yes. 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 But they are making progress, I think, in the
Yeah.
world, in the sense that there are lots of projects, research projects about water sanitation, water treatment, water conservation, how to prevent prevention. So at least there is a concern about the importance of water now. People have made conscious of the importance of water, not to waste water, water efficient systems, water treatment plants. So it's in the mind of people, I think. So we're making progress, I think. I don't know if we want to reach the goal of having clean water by 2030, but at least it's a public concern, I believe.
Yeah.
What about number seven, Mickey? Affordable and clean energy. What's your thought about that?
Yeah, I think that it has an ordered numbers, but then I see that it passed to prosperity, affordable and clean energy.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Prosperity is number one.
No, yeah, actually,
It's
affordable
the
and clean
header.
energy is the number seven, but I think that the number seven will be responsible consumption and production because we're still here in the chapter of planet. Um, but well, about affordable and clean energy, no, I don't think that they're gonna fulfill this goal either, because I know that in so many countries they don't have like the technology and money to have clean energy. Well, in Mexico either. Mexico probably we have the money, but we need to take advantage of the fossil. How do you say fossil?
Fossil fuels.
Yeah. So I would love to say that probably a little by little we can go to the clean energy, but at least I don't think that it's something that is going to happen in 5 years.
Now, let me ask you something. What's your opinion about nuclear energy as a source of domestic energy? Do you believe that is clean energy or is not considered clean energy, nuclear energy?
Well, I think that France is the one that they have like this nuclear energy, right, to their activities and to uh, yeah, to have energy in their country. It is France. It's correct. It's one of the
Right,
countries.
yeah, that is correct. They produce 75% of the domestic energy coming from nuclear sources, nuclear fuels. So you're
Mhm.
right. Yeah, yeah, that's true.
To be honest, I'm not pretty informed about the procedure that nuclear energy does to produce energy. I don't know. I don't know, but I don't think that it's very clean. It is.
Okay.
Is it clean? I don't know.
It's a controversial definition because there are benefits about nuclear energy. One of them is the low greenhouse gas emissions. They produce basically no gas emissions, right?
Mm.
Or very low carbon energy source. Opposite to the fossil fuels like coal or natural gas,
Mhm.
they don't emit greenhouse gases. When you generate electricity, they don't produce this. So they don't pollute the air, the atmosphere. That's a benefit.
Mm.
Also, it has a very high yield of energy compared to the fuel that produces it. You have a small amount of nuclear fuel and it
Mhm.
produces a vast amount of energy. So it's very efficient in terms of the material that produces the energy. So those are benefits, or that makes them think as a non, how do you say this? No, a clean energy. You would say that's a clean energy because it does not produce gases, and the yield is very effective, very productive, very efficient. But there are also arguments against it. For example, radioactive waste. What do you do with the radioactive waste? Well, yeah, the Americans bury it in the Mexican deserts, in San Luis Potosí, the Durango Desert, the Chihuahua Desert.
Mhm.
Well, sometimes they also do it in New Mexico, Arizona, and other places in the US. But there's been a
Mhm.
couple of cases in which they bury the nuclear waste in Mexican soil under the water. But that has happened. There are cases. But well, what's the controversy also? There's been also nuclear accidents.
Mhm.
Chernobyl,
Chernobyl. Mhm.
Fukushima in Japan, and nuclear accidents in the US. Let me see because they don't show them, but I'm sure there's been also 3 Mile Island, also in Pennsylvania, in the nuclear generation generating station in 1979, and so the reactor had an overheat, and it was a severe problem. So there's been 3 accidents, 3 major accidents: Chernobyl, Fukushima, and 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania. Out of thousands of cases. So I don't know if that makes it a big risk factor. What do you think, Mickey?
Now that you mentioned that, it is very complex to give an answer. Uh, I, I don't know how developed is the technology to try to avoid these accidents, but well, an accident could happen in any time. I think that the one of Fukushima was like 2010, 2011, 2000, more or less, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So it
that was.
was in a way more or less recent, obviously in comparison with the one of in Chernobyl. So yeah, accidents could happen. I don't know. Now that I'm thinking about France and that they have like the major of energy source from nuclear energy. I don't know. I don't know. What is your opinion, teacher? To be honest,
Yeah, well, there has only been 3 cases. I mean, people don't stop flying, even though there have been a number of fly accidents, right? Air accidents.
yeah.
And people continue flying. They foster the industry. They can say, no, quit flying, stop flying, go by ship, go by car, because there's been many air accidents. And no, people don't say that. People foster the idea that flying is very safe, and it is safe actually. But there's been not 3, there's been
Many.
lots of
Yeah.
accidents by air, and we all continue flying. So yeah, there's been 3 major accidents: Chernobyl, Fukushima, and the 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania in the US. But 3 is not many, in my opinion. So I would say that we should foster the use of nuclear energy. I believe there is another reason why they don't foster the development of nuclear energy. And I think that it has the potential to become a nuclear weapon, to use it as a weapon.
Hmm.
So I believe that's the real fear behind fostering the development of nuclear energy. But that's only my perception. You would empower countries and they would be able to, I mean, not only use it to defend themselves, but also to retaliate,
To
right?
regulate. Yeah, it is true. Um, so France has nuclear weapons too.
France has nuclear weapons, yeah.
Mm.
Actually, there are like 7 or 8 countries with nuclear weapons.
North Korea too, right?
Well, it is said that North Korea has it, but the US, Russia, China, France, United Kingdom, India, Pakistan, and North Korea. They don't mention Israel, but also I know that Israel also has them. Yeah, I think they also have nuclear weapons. Yes, is believed to possess nuclear weapons, and they don't explicitly say it,
Yeah, of
but
course.
so we can imagine who are the scientists behind the AI, this one in particular, because you have also the deep seek, right?
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't tried that one, DeepSeek, but yeah, you imagine that.
It's
Depending
very
of
good.
the, it is good. Have you tried it?
Very good, very good. Yeah, yeah, I have tried it, and it's amazing. It's very deep in many ways, very organized, has different characteristics from the ChatGPT. The citation process is really good. There are many advantages that you're going to find it very good, Mickey. I'm sure you're going to like it, and you're going to find a slight differences even if the format is similar. It also has some censorship. It censors the information. If you ask them, what do you think about the Chinese government?
Yeah,
They will tell you, uh, I'm sorry, that's beyond my scope. Let me send you the link.
there are one problems.
Ask, yeah, ask them anything about the government, and they will tell you, no, that's beyond my scope. But it's really
Yeah,
good.
I remember the first time that I saw a post about DeepSeek, and someone asked about if Taiwan was part of China, and I think that at that moment probably the model was very updated. So they mentioned, yeah, according to that, Taiwan is part of China for that. So I think that they they probably have updated that to try to answer this type of questions against the Chinese government.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Um, for example, let me give you a comparison between what they say between having or not having nuclear weapons.
Okay, do you want to share?
Yeah. So they say a list of the countries, Russia, and they give you for example, they give you let me share screen, DeepSeek. You ask them which countries have nuclear weapons, and they give you even the strategic uh, reserve warheads. They give you the numbers, so they become very deep, very thorough. Russia, United States, China, France, and they also include Israel.
They
Right?
include Israel.
The other one, ChatGPT, does not include Israel. And when you
Mm,
tell them, can you include Israel, or does Israel also have, for example, here, this is not it. Let's see, what is that? Okay, yeah. Okay, here, for example, they didn't, at the beginning, they didn't mention, I don't know if you can see it. No, maybe not. Let me share the screen. Let me share the screen. Pantalla completa here. All right. If you ask DeepSeek who has nuclear weapons, they will tell you Russia, US, China, France, United Kingdom, including Israel. Oops. Right? You see them here in number 8. Can you?
yeah.
And then if you ask ChatGPT who are the countries that have nuclear weapons, they will tell you everyone except Israel. And then when you ask them formally, explicitly, does Israel also have them? Then they say yes. Only then, if you ask them, yes, Israel is widely believed.
Mm.
So they don't make it explicit. If you ask, if you ask at the beginning, no, they included it. I'm sorry. No, no. At the beginning, they didn't. right? At the
Yeah.
beginning, they didn't. So only when you ask them explicitly, if I said, does Israel also have them? And then they say, is suspected or is believed to possess nuclear weapons. So it's a clear deviation from the other AI, don't you think?
Yeah, of course. Uh, I think that now it's like a competition, another competition between China and United States, like trying to develop the most capable and developed AI. So, but of course, there are so many things behind it.
Yeah, of course, of course, of course. And I think in a way it's good because they highlight the differences and you can understand what, I mean, if there are coincidences in eight things and there is a deviation in two things, you know which are the ones that are part of the conflict or debate. Don't you agree?
Yeah.
So I think it's positive in a way because then you're able to more or less have an idea what is at stake, what is part of the um, competition or their ambition, right? What they want to, how they want to project themselves, how they want to look, etc., etc. But well, so we're talking about the United Nations and other organizations and their behavior, and one of their activities is to regulate tariffs. And I don't know if they are succeeded, if they have succeeded in regulating the tariffs, Mickey. What do you think? Where is this going to end, in your opinion? Where are we going to?
I don't know. It is very difficult to determine what is going to happen because in the past, if you tell me that this is happening, probably I would say that it's not true. Um, so I don't think that it is possible that Donald Trump can continue with these tariffs, like imposing tariffs to all countries. Um, because I think that is not something sustainable. You know, I don't think that is something that can continue during the time. I don't know. Let's see how other countries, as you mentioned, retaliate against this. I think that China imposed tariffs to the United States of I don't remember how percent, but were high tariffs too. So I don't know. It is very difficult. It is very difficult to determine at this moment. I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree, Mickey. It's difficult to determine, but I don't think it is sustainable. I don't think it is sustainable, and we're going to be able to overcome that. Yeah, it is because the risks are too, the stakes are too high. The stakes are too high. For example, number three says that it reduces the supply chain. It disrupts the supply chain. Well, how are we going to maintain a smooth supply chain if there are these type of disruptions, right?
Yeah.
For example, how do you integrate the consumption of milk vertically? Well, what do you begin with? With, I suppose, with growing cattle, growing cows, right?
Yeah.
What would the second process would be to in the milk chain? Well, milk the cows, or if you produce bread, what is the first stage in the production of bread? Well, you need to cultivate corn or wheat.
Wheat.
Yeah. If you produce beer, where does the production of beer begin?
Mm, with how do you say
Production of wheat, of barley,
barley? Yeah.
barley, etc.
Cebada.
So,
Hmm.
cebada, yeah, yeah, barley.
Hmm.
And so, if there is a disruption in this chain, how are the end products be supposed to be made, right? For example, how do you produce tequila or mezcal, which is a spirit? that is increasing its consumption in Europe and the US? Where do you begin it? In the production of agave, correct?
Yeah, yeah, with tequila, yeah, with the production of agave.
Okay, so if there is a tariff in any of the intermediate processes, like for example, fertilizers, pesticides, etc., that's going to create a burden in the supply chain. Let's say that you start importing textiles, the cloth to produce the textiles that one of your friends tells you, Mickey, can you bring textiles from China because I want to make pants for sports or whatever? And then you start importing. And you have a very fluid and fluent and efficient supply chain. And then China tells you, Mickey, from now, not China, but Mexico says, from now on, we want to impose tariffs on the imports from China, Mickey. So that will create a little burden in your imports from China, right?
Yeah, of course.
So if there are constant tariffs on imports, that will have the risk of creating disruptions in the supply chain.
Hmm.
It's not going to be smooth anymore, right? So I think they're bad, and I believe that at the end, the world will retaliate against Trump. I think, Nikki, I don't know what if you agree, he cannot be stronger than the world, or do you think he can?
No, no, he can't. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, as we mentioned, it is something that is not sustainable. So, and the reality is that there are other countries that now are stronger in other terms than the United States. So no, he cannot be against all the world.
Yeah, in particular, the world connects themselves with each other. If the
Hmm.
world decides to get together to promote mutual aid, which is also a very important phrase in this moment, right?
Mutual
Mutual
aid.
aid,
Yeah.
mutual aid.
Hmm.
That is the moment of truth, I believe, in the world in which we need to help each other to overcome abusive behaviors like the one of Donald Trump or other ones in history. Remember when the Nazis invaded Poland?
Hmm.
They, they used force abusively. And I believe at that time the world was not able to, I mean, when Russia asked England for an alliance, they said, "Hey, let's become allies, and if the Nazis invade us, we defend each other." And England said, "Well, let's see." And then Hitler invaded Russia, and it was a very fierce. And the English were just looking. Let's see who wins. That's of course a very personal opinion, and it's very critical, of course, and it's very unpopular.
Hmm.
If I say this in England, they probably kill me, right? But I
Yeah.
think they were just watching to see who wins. Oh, I align with you now, Russia, and now let's defend Russia when Russia was already beating the Germans.
Yeah.
So the Germans were already defeated, but the Russians and Germans were bleeding to death, and then the Russians became ahead, but with lots of casualties. And only then, in my opinion, of course, only then the Axis said, okay, not the Axis, the Allies said, oh, let's help Russia. But of course, it's a very unpopular point of view, and I could be wrong.
Controversial.
I could be biased, could be. So I'm not saying that
Hmm.
that is the absolute truth. It's just
Yeah,
an
of course.
opinion. And I can modify it if I have new information that tells me otherwise.
Of
But up to
course.
now, that's my perception.
Yeah.
What do you think of this, Mickey? Is it a moment to help each other for mutual aid among countries?
Yeah, I think that it's moment because mm, nowadays it's very difficult to try uh, to overpass different situations just by your own, I think. So in a way, I think that each country have like different futures, different um opportunities, and different weaknesses too. So in a way, I think that mutual aid it is necessary, and I think that it's something that sooner or later is gonna happen because, as we mentioned, it is have enemies with everyone is not a is not a good way to start, and sooner or later he's gonna see that probably the idea that he has of his country is not very accurate nowadays.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. That is true. And it can only be beneficial. It can only be beneficial. I see no downside of this help, right? I help you and you help me. I help you today, you help me tomorrow. Or we help each other today and also tomorrow. I think that's a very beautiful, and it doesn't have any risks. Whereas if I say I'm sorry, I go on my own. I go by myself. If something good happens to me, I enjoy it all. And if something bad happens to me, is my fault and is my suffering. Well, that has a risk, right? Whereas if we say, well, let's help each other as countries. If something good happens, well, we split the profit. I mean, the benefits. And if something bad happens, well,
There's no.
the burden is less, right? We suffer
Yeah.
less.
Hmm.
So I think it's a moment, Mickey. Let's hope it happens like this, right?
Let's hope. Yeah, I think so. I think that it's gonna happen, but let's see.
Okay. Very good, Mickey. Well, good talking to you as usual.
Yes, sure. Thank you very much for your time
Take care,
and
and
for the advice.
maybe next week we do another session.
Yeah, the show will be great. Yeah, I think that I'm not gonna go out, so just tell me which day is better for you, and we can arrange it.
Okay, very good. Well, enjoy your holidays, Mickey. Thursday,
You too,
Friday,
teacher.
Saturday, Sunday. Enjoy them. Say
You
hello to
too.
the family,
Thank you.
please, and see you next week, God willing.
God willing, teacher. Take care, teacher. Thank you very much.
You too. Enjoy, Mickey. Wonderful weekend. See you
You too,
then.
teacher.